Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. Today we're going over a few interesting meta-relevant cards currently trending on the market. We've only had one weekend where Phantom Nightmare cards are legal for competitive play, but in the results that we've seen so far, there's some interesting things that have happened. Obviously, Snake Eye Fire Kings are really dominant, but there's several other strategies that players have kept their eyes on that are able to keep up with the rest of the decks this format, and so today we're going to talk about a few key cards from those respective decks. But guys, before we jump in, I want to let you all know about a sale happening for today only at MSTmerch.com. Yes, that's right, it's only for today, Valentine's Day, for us to show you guys how much we love and appreciate all of your support by discounting our red MST.TV sleeves as well as the rose pink carbon series sleeves. These sleeves are my personal favorites and I use them for all of my decks, and they're really durable too. I think I've been using mine for almost 2 months now. However, we do also have you guys' other favorites like the Ulti Egos, Ulti Instincts, NFTs, and oversleeves all in stock, so make sure you go and grab them while they're here exclusively at MSTmerch.com. Alright, getting right to it, the first card we're looking at is Branded Fusion. So the Branded deck is something that we've seen a bit of a resurgence from recently. This has always been a really popular deck with a lot of players, being a very strong fusion-based strategy for the last couple of years. It feels like they've gotten so much crazy support since the whole Fallen of Albaz lore just kept on growing and growing, and they've always been pretty strong. However, I feel like the TCG just hasn't been too good to them. This deck was really strong in the OCG, to where Branded Fusion was actually limited to 1, but the deck remains mostly untouched here in the TCG aside from Branded Banishment being banned. Branded Fusion is the card that makes the deck go, allowing you to fusion summon with materials directly from your deck, so not just bringing out a fusion monster, but letting you get key cards into the graveyard as well, so it should come as no surprise that it's the card that's been getting attention recently. With this card, there are just 2 printings, one as a Structure Deck Super Rare and the other as an OTS Tournament Pack Ulti. Now with both versions, we've seen them go up over the last month or so. The graph on the right that you guys are seeing here is the graph for the Super Rare, which used to only be $1 or so. It's now up to around $2. It's more just because it's like the only cheap version of the card, right? And it's probably still easier to just buy the singles than it is to go and buy the sealed Structure Deck. The Ultis are also up quite a bit, as you can see from the graph on the left. They were down at around $30 to $35 for quite a while. I remember picking up my set for around $80, but we've now seen the card bounce up to between $45 and $50 per copy. Branded has really made a resurgence this format. Mirror Jade is a really difficult card to deal with, and given that the deck is a couple of years old, a lot of the cards have actually already been reprinted and are relatively easy to access, especially when you compare them to cards like Bonfire and Wanted. Branded Fusion was an ulti in an OTS pack, and recently we've been seeing that with OTS ultis, they don't generally get hit on ban lists if we look at cards like Kashtira, Fenrir, and Tearlaman's Rhinoheart. If you are on a budget, I would just pick up the supers for now if you just want to play the deck. However, given that this is a fan favorite deck, the ultis also aren't too horrible of a buy since I don't really see them going down anytime in the near future. Up next is a card that we've talked about before. It's Salamangreat Raging Phoenix. So this is a card that is used in most of the fire decks, so Rescue Ace, Fire Kings, and Pure Snake Eye. This is a Link 4 monster that you generally make with Promethean Princess and another fire monster. You would turn this into a World Dragon Zealantis, reposition both of your boards, trigger your princess in the graveyard, and that would then allow Raging Phoenix to summon itself out, and all of a sudden you can push for a ton of damage out of nowhere. Now before the official release of Phantom Nightmare, I think a lot of players were kind of iffy on this card, thinking that maybe the deck would be able to function without it. However, based on the results and such that we've seen so far, all of the successful builds of the decks were running this package in their extra, suggesting that it's going to be a staple package this upcoming format. With this card, we have seen it shoot up again in price recently. It was just over a month ago that we saw it shoot up to almost $40, but then it looked like the price was going to cool back down, but then it shot up out of nowhere and it's still on an upward trend that we see now. Of course, Raging Phoenix only has the 1 printing out of Soul Burning Volcano, which was a pretty bad set outside of this card and maybe 1 or 2 others. At the moment, you're probably looking at having to pay around $50 for a single copy. Moving forward, I don't know exactly where Raging Phoenix could even be reprinted. It feels like it's such a new card that it would be really weird to have it reprinted already, but at the same time, it's such an important card to have access to this format that it would kind of suck that it's another expensive card that players are going to have to struggle to find. Hopefully you guys have your copy already, because this does feel like the type of card that isn't going to see a reprint until it's already too late. Okay, so this one's for a much more under the radar deck than Fire Kings. It is Abyss Shark. This is a water card that's apparently being used as a combo piece in Goaty variants. I think Goaty Runic is the one that's been the most successful, but some players are trying out Goaty with Super Heavy Samurais as well. This card special summons itself as long as all of your monsters are water, and then it also searches for a level 3, 4, or 5 fish from your deck. Now fortunately, the Goaties are all waters, so they're good search targets, and theoretically, you don't need to burn your normal summon on Abyss Shark itself, so you should be able to get multiple bodies onto the field in order to conduct some synchro plays. Unfortunately, Abyss Shark is a pretty difficult card to find. Just like with Raging Phoenix, it only has one ultra rare printing from a Duelist Pack side set. However, I think that the water set was arguably even worse, since they had to add a reprint of Forbidden Droplet just to try and help push the product along. Because of that, the card has never exactly been cheap. It's always been anywhere from $3 to $6, but over the last month or so, we've seen the card move up steadily to where it's settled now at around the $10 mark. Now obviously, the Goaty cards aren't nearly as strong as Snake Eye cards, and I don't think that too many people are really expecting Goaty to do well this format. They'll probably top locals or the occasional regionals, and they might be a more viable strategy down the road after a ban list or two, but the deck probably isn't going to perform right now. Theoretically, this card will get a reprint by then, but you can never really be certain with side sets. Buy this card if you're really wanting to try out the Goaty deck, since it'll make a solid alternative if you're looking to play on a bit more of a budget this format. Moving on, we have a card that seemed to be falling under the radar for a little bit there. It's Triple Tactics Thrust, so I think it was in the last few months of 2023 that people were actually saying that this card should eventually be banned for how powerful it is. It basically gives you access to any normal spell or trap card, and there's a really long list of impactful cards that it's able to search for, including Talents, Evenly, Duster, Lightning Storm, Bonfire, and Dimensional Barrier. The card really fell off for a brief time there, but now with Snake Eye Fire Kings having so many different triggers during each player's turn, it's something that we've seen coming up more and more, both in the main and side deck. Here, the only version I'm showing the price for is the Ultra, which is where we've been seeing a bit of a rebound in price recently. The reprint in Maze of Millennia was unexpected, and even though it came out and was around $50, that quickly dropped, and for a while you could grab a copy for around $30 to $35. However, with the surge in play that the card has seen recently, it's just the Ultra that's starting to trend back up, to where it's now just over $40 per copy. Overall, I feel like this just isn't a safe card to own too many copies of. This card is down so much. The alties used to be well over $110, $120. They're now down to $60 to $65 each, and the secrets are only around $45 to $50 as well. Neither of those is bouncing back up either. The big scary thing is Rarity Collection 2, and whether or not Thrust is going to be in there. I think that's the thing that's stopping this card from going through the roof, because as Rarity Collection 1 showed us, those reprints are going to cause the low rarity prints and even some of the high rarity printings to fall off in price right away. This is the epitome of high risk, high reward, because if the card isn't in Rarity Collection 2, I do see this card as still being a staple next format that will definitely bounce back up in price. Overall, I do think that this is the kind of card that you just hold on to what you're going to use for yourself. I would offload your extra copies, because if it is in Rarity Collection 2, all of those extra copies you have are definitely going to tank. So this is a bit of a random one. We next have Ghostrick Alucard. This card is actually a generic rank 3 monster that used to be a decent extra deck option many years ago. It lets you detach a material from it to pop a set card on the field. Now in the modern format, we don't really care about that pop. Sure, it might come up, but that's not the reason we're playing the card. This is a card used by the Goblin Rider deck, which is able to spam rank 3 monsters quite easily. The idea is that you make this card, you put a Ghostrick Angel of Mischief on top of it, detach the Alucard to search for a Ghostrick Shot, Shot revives Alucard, Alucard makes another Mischief, and you use the 2 Ghostrick Angels of Mischief to make Utopic Draco Future. So really, in this case, Alucard isn't a great card in and of itself, but it's a bridge piece that's used to bring out a really strong monster. So the good thing about Alucard is that the card has a ton of different printings, but unfortunately all of them are quite old, so even the lower rarity printings are quite a pain to find. For the most part, the 2 ultra printings, the Shatterfoil, and then the rare from Wing Raiders, literally all of them are up at around the $10 mark, some of them a little bit higher or lower. The graphs on TCG Player aren't updated for all of them, but I'm showing you guys what they look like for now, since here we can see a clear upward trend of all the different printings within the last month or so. The one printing of note is the ultimate rare from back in Shadow Specters, which does look really nice, coming in at about $25. Goblin Riders didn't really perform over in the OCG, so I'm not thinking they'll be too great here in the TCG or anything necessarily. There is no Max C, so maybe they'll fare a bit better, but we'll have to wait until we have some definitive competitive results. For now, I'd suggest offloading your copies of Alucard while they are so expensive. Like, if you can get $10 for a rare Alucard from Wing Raiders, I think that's amazing value, and I would offload all of my copies right away. So we have a smaller card here, it's Dark Beckoning Beast. This is a card that has kind of gone under the radar as a really solid starter. I do think it's worth paying attention to. So early on, I do think some Sprite decks were trying to use this as an engine that could get multiple level 2s onto the board while also granting access to Djinn Buster. Now, however, it seems that this is a starter piece used by the yugioh strategy, since you can get 2 of them out fairly easily and make Yama, granting you access to the Unchained engine to help get the deck going. The yugioh strategy may not seem too strong at first, especially since most of the cards were printed in low rarity in Phantom Nightmare, but the deck is actually really resilient and is able to put up a ton of different disruptions, and in fact it even gets stronger later on with another wave of support coming in Legacy of Destruction. This card probably isn't going to make you rich or anything like that, but it is something worth paying attention to. Just a month or two ago, this card was literally a 25-cent card for the holo version out of the tins. However, the card has gotten a bunch of attention as more and more players are experimenting with yugioh, to where the card is now up to between $1 and $2 per copy. This is definitely something to dig up out of your bulk and stick into your trade binders. Even the commons from that old structure deck, if you do happen to have them lying around, I would still bring those with you. Even though it may not seem worth it to just sell them, right, because it's such a low dollar amount, trading up can be a very effective way to build up your binder, and if you can find someone looking for these cards, since most people won't be bringing them to your locals, hopefully you can convert them into some sort of more solid value. Alright, so finally there is one last card I want to touch on briefly, it's Pearly. So I kind of want to make a separate video touching on a few different things, and the dangerous precedent that's set by Rarity Collection. Obviously right now, Pearly is still a really strong deck. They have Sleepy Memory at 2 and Delicious Memory at 1, but Noir with a bunch of materials is still a really difficult card for most decks this format to out. The big issue comes with the announcement regarding Rarity Collection 2, where it's confirmed that we'll be getting reprints of Pearly, My Friend Pearly, and Pearly Pretty Memory, the 3 Pearly Ultras from Amazing Defenders that were among the more expensive cards in the set. Naturally, this reprint announcement has caused the prices of these cards to tank. Specifically here, I'm showing you guys the prices of Pearly. On the top, you see the collector's rare printing, which was up at $40 to $50, but is now down at $25 already on TCG Player. And then with the Ultras, you see that they were up at $18 to $20, but they've already fallen down to under $10 each. The difficult thing is that Rarity Collection makes it feel so unsafe to hold on to those high rarity printings of cards that came out in the side sets. I feel like a lot of players that invested in max rarity Pearly cards are going to be pretty choked now that we're going to have collector's rare Pearly, probably worth only like a couple of dollars for that reprint, whereas they paid probably upwards of $60 for the original collector's rares, and now they're not even going to be like half that price. We'll talk more about these reprints in another video and how they're affecting the market, but for now, all we'll say is that you guys should keep an eye out for the reprint news as soon as it comes out. As soon as something is announced, look to offload those cards for even a fraction of the price, since in the longer run, the prices are definitely going to come down even further. Alright guys, that is all we have for today's episode. Definitely interesting to see how some of those first results from the Phantom Nightmare format are coming in. Obviously things are going to change as we move through the format because it's just the 1 week of results that we have, but it's definitely cool how we've seen so many things established in such a short time, and I think that Phantom Nightmare was such a game-changing set that a lot of people had an idea of what they were going to do well before the set officially released. Just a reminder guys, make sure that you check out MSTmerch.com. Just for today on Valentine's Day, we are going to have the sale on those pink sleeves and the MST.TV red sleeves as well. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and check out MSTmerch.com. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.